In 1963, only about 350 people lived in Fishers. It grew to 2,000 in 1980. Today, it's close to 100,000 Hoosiers calling Fishers home. The northeast suburb of Indianapolis experiencing unprecedented growth and really showing no signs of slowing down. Fishers' current and first mayor, Scott Fadness, says he is laser focused on creating a vibrant and entrepreneurial city, retaining, creating, and attracting jobs, and also redeveloping the downtown. He joins me now with more to talk about accomplishments and what might be next. And as always, Mayor, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Gary.
Let's talk about the model. A different model, very intentional about not creating a traditional bedroom community, but one that's truly a place to live, work, and play.
Yeah, I mean, that population growth you just mentioned was incredible, but we mainly grew on the residential side, not necessarily on the commercial side. And we really wanted to take a focused approach to comprehensive economic development that said, yes, we're going to attract companies from elsewhere, but we're also going to create an environment where organic economic activity occurs right here in our city.
We'll talk about being intentional about creating a brand around entrepreneurship and innovation. You know, sounds good, but I think, and probably a few years ago, maybe a lot of people weren't totally bought in that was the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, we even wondered, can an entrepreneurial culture exist in a bedroom community? And really, we've worked very, very hard to back up that kind of buzzword, if you will, with actionable items. And so largest co-working space in the state, Internet of Things Lab, culinary accelerator, schools are all aligned towards this idea of creating a really entrepreneurial city.
Let's talk about the co-working space. And I believe it was the first one in the state. And now Launch Fishers has grown to 50,000 plus square feet. Talk about what that has meant to the mission here in Fishers.
It really helped forge our identity in those adolescent stages of our community. So as you said, we were a young community. So imagine, if you want to use somewhat of an analogy or a metaphor, would be that we were just in our teenage years, trying to figure out what our identity was going to be. Well, the fact that we really focused in on entrepreneurship, I think that will stay in our DNA throughout the life cycle of our city. And so when Launch Fishers came along and people really started identifying our community as such, I really do think it in some ways branded our city in perpetuity.
And perhaps led to the creation of the facility we are in right now, the Indiana IoT Lab, first of its kind in Indiana and one of the first of its kind in the country. Talk about the innovation that's going on here and why you think IoT is a good bet for Indiana.
Yeah, so it shows a commitment on our part to say that whatever we were going to do was going to be substantive and systemic. And so once the co-working space was up and running, John Wexler and I started talking about, well, what's the logical next step for our community around entrepreneurship? And we really believe the application of the internet and this new technological wave associated with all those core industries that Indiana has, making things, moving things, growing things, that had to be our next logical step. And so this IoT lab is really that manifestation of our attempt to create yet another kind of ecosystem around a little bit different industry sector than maybe the software as a service. So you have all kinds of companies in here today working on applications of the Internet of Things into industry primarily like manufacturing, but we're also looking at agriculture and distribution as well.
Has this brand, if you will, helped to attract on the retail side Topgolf, and of course everybody's talking about IKEA as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it certainly helps to have a large, educated, affluent community here in the first place, but what it does is it just adds to this overall dynamic of a vibrant city. And so I would actually say the opposite. I don't think we can attract the young, talented companies here if we didn't have unique retail experiences for them to have to enjoy.
Unique experiences, I think, is a good description of the Yard, a $40 million restaurant and entertainment complex. Talk about that and how that fits in with this entrepreneurial vision.
Absolutely, Gary. You know, nowadays when I try to recruit companies, the funniest thing has happened where most of the CEOs tell me that their number one concern, past tax climate, things of that nature, is where are my people going to go for lunch that's a unique culinary experience? You would never guess that, but you hear it all the time. So when they locate their companies, they want walkability and they want to go to restaurants. So this $40 million development, I think it's actually climbing up to $60 to $100 million development now we're adding some multifamily into there to get some density. But it's really all about trying to attract that culinary experience for the corporate headquarters that are located just south of there.
All right, Fishers Mayor Scott Fadness, as always, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for stopping by.
You bet. We're going to enjoy the next hour. Thanks for being here. Well, still ahead, he has held numerous job titles following his passion from one job to the next. He seemingly found a niche in co-working spaces. We'll talk to one of the best-known names in the Indiana tech community, John Wexler, about creating Launch Fishers and how the Internet of Things Lab, well, what might be next here. Stay with us. Well, welcome back. You are looking at Launch Fishers, the state's largest co-working space that opened in 2012 after starting in the basement of the Fishers Library. Today it covers more than 50,000 square feet of space, more than 600 members, and is home to some 300 businesses. It is a launch pad for entrepreneurs working on startup and high-growth, high-potential enterprises. Well, he's founded, co-founded, or served in C-level roles in at least 6 startups. He's also the mastermind behind Launch Fishers and this newest venture, the Indiana Internet of Things Lab, a tech lab and workspace for creators building on IoT technologies. And I'm pleased to be joined now by Launch Fishers and Indiana IoT Lab founder, John Wexler. As always, John, welcome.
Thank you, Gary.
Take us back quickly. I talked to the mayor about this too, but coming up with this idea for first Launch Fishers and now this, part of a bigger idea for branding Fishers in this community.
Yeah, it was something that when we started thinking about this back around 2012 timeframe, we looked at communities around us and what they were known for. And some were arts, some were youth athletics, and Fishers really didn't have anything that stood out. And we kind of thought to ourselves, well, what if we chose entrepreneurship and innovation as our identity? How would that affect our fortunes going forward? We feel like we're on the right path here.
Building these doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. What do you think has been key to first Launch Fishers, which started, I remember, in the basement of the library and has grown into a huge space, and now this IoT lab?
Well, I would say a couple things. One is really first and foremost the visionary leadership of our mayor, Scott Fadness. Without someone at the helm that's willing to say, charge, we're going this way, and then sticking to that over the last 6 years, I'd put that at the forefront. Secondly, allowing the entrepreneurs to do their thing is a critical part of this. There's a book called Startup Communities where Brad Feld writes about the 4 tenets of the Boulder thesis. And the very first tenet is it must be entrepreneur-led. So allowing us to make our mistakes and try new things. I think our mayor's vision combined with allowing the entrepreneurs to kind of lead this thing and run forward, those two have really combined to make it pretty powerful.
Well, both the IoT Lab and Launch Fishers are part of a broader network, right? There's a real focus. I know you've been around the state, but making this part of a statewide network.
Absolutely. So starting with the Indiana Co-working Passport, we created an affiliation of 50 locations now across the state, where if you're a member at one, you can work at another. Reducing the barriers for Indiana entrepreneurs is a really big reason we did that. Now you look at the Indiana IoT Lab, and we're talking to communities around the state right now about their interests and desires to open an IoT lab. Whether we own and operate them isn't the key. The key is that the rising tide lifts all ships, and that's really at the core of what it is we're doing here.
And that's part of that momentum, if you will, around technology and innovation that we're seeing around the state of Indiana, I think.
Yeah, it's really encouraging to us to continue to see outlying communities, large and small. You know, I marvel still to this day at Huntingburg and what they've done down there with a community of 6,000 people, and they've built one of the mightiest and most functional co-working spaces I've seen.
Startup, scale-up companies, certainly a big focus here, but interesting, and especially here in the IoT Lab, the corporate innovation that is big-time companies attracted to this facility.
Yeah, I think we've kind of proved our chops in that entrepreneur and a backpack and an idea space where we take a single person and turn it into a 2, 3, or 4 person company. But what we're seeing is the corporate innovators now that are coming in, Fortune 500 companies that are bringing both industrial IoT projects with us as well as product challenges. How do we make this thing do its thing better? So we're really excited about where corporate innovation fits in here.
As you look out 5, 10, maybe even beyond 15 plus years, what do you see Fishers becoming with Launch, with the IoT Lab, with the corporate interests, the scale-ups? What can this community, in your view, become?
I think, most encouraging, and I think the mayor said it best when, you look at how this has really impacted the DNA of our community. I think when you look at reaching through our education system and attracting more farm-to-table restaurants and having the whole community integrate around this idea of innovation as a core value, I think we're going to see something very special in the decades ahead.
All right, John Wexler, Indiana IoT Lab and Launch Fishers, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. Well, Fishers continues to attract corporate investment from near and far. Memory Ventures moved from the West Coast to Fishers, while Knowledge Services is investing more than $17 million to build a new headquarters here. Leadership from both companies are here to discuss what's fueling growth and why Fishers. Well, welcome back to this special edition of our show, a Fishers Town Hall, coming to you from the Indiana IOT Lab in Fishers. Well, you know, this city is attracting corporate investment. In the past year, the city welcomed 3 corporate headquarters with a combined nearly $36 million plus investment. Stanley Security christened a $16 million headquarters last summer, while Braden Business Systems celebrated its $6 million downtown home last fall. And Cedia's global headquarters is currently under construction, a $14 million price tag on that. Construction is set to start later this year on Knowledge Services' $17 million headquarters planned for the Green Acres Technology Park in Fishers. The new headquarters also calls for the addition of about 400 jobs. Meanwhile, 3 years ago, Anderson Schoenrock moved his high-tech portfolio company from California to Fishers. Today, Memory Ventures is growing its e-commerce business lines, headcount, and workspace. And for more on these 2 high-growth companies, I'm pleased to be joined by both CEOs, Knowledge Services, Julie Boloski, and Anderson Schoenrock from Memory Ventures. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And the special edition.
To
give our viewers an idea of what each of you does, your companies, Knowledge Services, Julie, is one of the great Indiana tech success stories. Give us a thumbnail of the company.
We are a tech firm and a professional services firm. We really focus on government, serving the government agencies and helping to serve our citizens, including ourselves, right? Yep. And our focus is really in the workforce management space for government. So.
And you've grown from a small number of employees to now globally 2,000 or so employees?
Nationally, we have just under 2,000 employees, about 150 in our corporate workspace.
Very good. Anderson, give us the lowdown on Memory Ventures.
Sure. Memory Ventures is a portfolio of e-commerce brands. We moved to Fishers about 3 years ago. Originally started the business in California as a business to help customers convert all of their out-of-date media into digital format, and have since expanded into the wall decor space. So we're selling our products and services directly to consumer through the internet, and as well as on online marketplaces like Amazon.
Talk about growth, because you continue to grow in a nice way.
Yeah, so when we moved the business here, we were about a headcount of 35 people. We're now approaching 60, and we're in the process of hiring another 6 to 8 people in the next month or so. So it's been great.
Julie, talk about the move from the Castleton area, right,
yes.
in Indianapolis, Marion County, to Fishers. Why do it? You're going to build really a beautiful new campus as part of really a big corporate area now that's developing in Fishers. Why make the move to Fishers?
Well, you know, we looked all over, including Indianapolis, but the stars just aligned for us. Fishers is incredible in their technology push and the way they lift up entrepreneurial companies, and putting those things together, coupled with the fact that this beautiful piece of land came on the market, it just was the right fit for us. So we're really excited to become a part of this community and the inertia that's going on with technology.
So you feel there is value in, when you come in a community, embracing innovation, embracing technology?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not happening, you fall behind and get left behind, and we're firm believers in that. We are always innovating in our company, and Fishers is just a really good fit for us. And it's not just the technology, but the community spirit that they're building as well, with investment in the yard and other areas, and we're really excited to join our fantastic neighbors in Fishers.
Yeah. Anderson, your story, I think, is very interesting, because you moved from California and made an intentional move to come to Fishers, but you looked at other places. You just didn't say, I'm going to Fishers. You looked at other places and decided on this city.
We did. So I spent the summer of 2014 kind of crisscrossing the Midwest. We had identified the central United States as the next place that we wanted to put our headquarters, and we did an extensive search of Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and found Fishers, found the greater Indianapolis area, and then settled in on Fishers, and had an opportunity to meet with Mayor Fadness and John Wexler and some of the other members of the community that were really getting the flywheel going here. And just thought it was an incredibly unique story and something that we could be part of and help continue to move in the right direction. you know, 3 years later, it's fun to see that that's actually happened.
As we wrap up, Anderson, I'll start with you. As you look 5-10 years down the road, what can you see Fishers becoming from a business and a place to live, work, and play?
So it's, you know, in the 3 years that we've been here, we've seen a lot of the things that we were kind of talking about as ideas when we first got here actually kind of literally spring up out of the ground. So that's been great to see. I would expect that to continue. I think the fact that, you know, Fishers has now been rated the #1 place to live. We see our employees enjoying the benefits of that, and I would just continue to see more momentum and more of the same happening here.
Julie, give you the last word here. As you look 5-10 years down the road, you're going to be in your new headquarters, hopefully late 19 or 20.
Yes.
What do you see this whole area becoming?
Well, again, it's not just the technology, it is the community. We were at the farmers market on Saturday morning, and I'm happy to be back for the season and watching the development of the amphitheater park. And Fishers is really investing in the community, and it's no wonder that we were voted a #1 place to live and work and play. And so we're excited to be a part of it.
Very good. Well, corporate investment indeed happening in Fishers. Julie Belosky from Knowledge Services, also Anderson Schoenrock from Memory Ventures. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, coming up next, almost around every corner in Fishers, you can find unique places to eat, from ethnic cuisine to pizza to tea and scones. The offerings are growing. Yelp's Brittany Smith is here to show us her list of the top 15 eats in Fishers. Stay with us. Well, welcome back. You're looking at the busy, very busy I-69 corridor along 116th Street. A popular place to shop, eat, and also have a little fun. You can spend hours wandering through the state's first IKEA, and after you work up your appetite, head over to Portillo's for a Chicago hot dog or Italian beef. Then wrap up your day by hitting a few balls at Top Golf. Certainly lots to do here in Fishers. And as the population here continues to grow and diversify, so does the demand for a more diverse palate. Residents can now find everything from Thai to Korean right in their own backyards, blending in with rapidly increasing entertainment and weekend activity options. Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith is here now, joining us on location with the top 15 eats in Fishers. Brittany is always welcome.
Thank you for having me.
As I mentioned there, Fishers is growing.
Yes.
And the population is diversifying. So too, it's amazing to watch this explosion of new options to eat.
You're bringing in a younger audience, diversifying that audience, and with that comes, you know, needs for Korean food, Vietnamese, all down the line. People are wanting to try new things.
All right, I know you've got a top 15 list of the best places to eat.
Based on data, that's right.
And believe me, the smells here are outstanding. Passion Pane, right?
Yes,
is
that's
the
right.
first one we're going to look at.
Yes, this one, Yelpers are loving the authentic vibes of this Italian restaurant. They actually brought over their wood-fired oven from Italy. They're making the wood-fired pizzas right there in true traditional style. Cameron's Pizza is one of the standouts. Homemade sausage, ricotta, and spinach. Little menu recommendation for after the show.
And I think that's some of what I'm smelling right
now.
Yes,
exactly.
It smells great. Also, fast casual on the menu here in Fishers. Burritos and beer.
Yes. This is a really fun business. So it's one of those ones you can run in at lunchtime, work your way down the line, build your own meal, burrito. And the beautiful thing of it is they do have a beer wine permit, so you can grab a beer while you're there, and fast casual for your lunch.
Okay, very good. Not all of these are certainly new places. Cafe Korea has been around for more than a decade,
it's been around a decade. 3 generations under one roof. They've actually moved into a new location. Really beautiful space. It's somewhere that you can go to get classics like bibimbap, try some bulgogi beef. So really experiment with a new cuisine if you haven't tried Korean, and they're very educational with the whole process.
Yeah, and again, the global offerings, Chow Vietnamese street food.
Yeah, this business is a lot of fun, really gets fun reviews, and it's located right next door to the Sun King location, so you can actually take your food over next door and have it with your beer. But they are known for their pho, their rolls, the spring rolls, so you can get something light and refreshing, and also their bubble waffles. They're very visual with the taro ice cream, very colorful meal.
As you and I talk a lot about the restaurant scene, these are entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And it's neat. Twigs and Tea, I know you're going to talk about. This is in a home, a house, right? That's growing. They're expanding.
Yes, exactly. This is a perfect example of how the demand, they're trying to keep up with the demand for the community, and they're adding on a new patio, a new overhang space, great for private parties, making everything fresh. People love the chicken salad, the scones, and then they actually have a shop space inside there right off 116th.
All right, those are 5 spots. You just highlighted, but you've got a list of 15 in total,
yes,
right?
exactly. So this list was pulled based on Yelp data of reviews that were written here in Indiana for Fishers businesses. And of those, you're also going to see, you've got beyond that Thai restaurant, Sim's Pizza and Salads, Lou Vino, which actually originally comes from Louisville up to Indiana, Favin, Hiro Hibachi, Express and Sushi. You're going to see a lot of diversity in this list through and through.
It used to be that Indianapolis and this whole area, you would be panned because there weren't any unique
Yes.
restaurants. That's changing.
That's right. Now you can't keep up. There's something opening all the time. You have to check it out and see what's coming on new and hopefully try something different.
Well, and how about the future? Because it shows no signs of slowing down when you think about the Yard, this $60 to $100 million food and entertainment venue that's going to have an incubator to grow new food ideas.
This is so ideal for new businesses that are wanting to try new ideas, experiment with the audience, see what works, see what doesn't work before they go ahead and get their own space. There's a lot of overhead costs for businesses starting out. Yeah,
this Fishers among the top food scenes, you think, growing around the state?
For sure. It's been really fun to see new businesses. We have a category called Hot and New. You're constantly seeing those new businesses popping up, and Fishers is definitely a prime example of that.
Awesome. Brittany Smith
Thank
from
you
Yelp,
so
as
much,
always.
Gary.
Thanks
this
very much.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Well, coming up, 80% of Fishers residents own their own homes. We'll get a pulse on the growing housing market and show you how far your money can go in some of these Fishers neighborhoods. Plus, if Fishers really does want to be smart and vibrant and entrepreneurial, it really needs to start in the classroom. Two educators join us to talk about how they are incorporating entrepreneurship and innovation into the curriculum in schools here in the Fishers area.
Stand by D1 Sound, sponsored open with music. Stand by camera 3 with Gary. We're out in 5, 4, 3, 2, dissolve, cue Gary.
You are looking at Indianapolis Metropolitan Airport, established in 1962 as a municipal corporation by the Indiana General Assembly, now part of the Indianapolis International Airport System, operated by the Airport Authority. Nearly 150 small planes take off and land each day. Well, welcome back to this special edition of Inside Indiana Business, a Fishers Town Hall powered by Pacer Sports and Entertainment. We're coming to you this week from the Indiana Internet of Things Lab in Fishers, one of the nation's first public-private IoT labs. Fishers has received a lot of high marks in quality of life surveys, best places to live in America, America's friendliest towns, 10 best towns for families, just to name a few. For the last decade, young families have been flocking to this Indianapolis suburb for its affordable housing, safe neighborhoods, low taxes, and schools. Annexation and the emerging I-69 corridor have been major factors in transforming the housing community and giving consumers here more options. For more on the Fishers housing market, let's turn now to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Indiana Realty Manager and Broker Greg Cooper. As always, Greg, welcome to the program.
Great to be here.
All right, let's talk about the evolve. We talk about how Fishers continues to evolve. How about the housing market? How did it begin many years ago when Fishers was a kind of a small, sleepy little town?
Couldn't have been more perfectly described as a bedroom community 25 years ago. And I think the mindset among a lot of Fishers leaders at that point was that the housing market was going to be very altruistic. They wanted it to be affordable. They wanted young families to be able to come and get their start here. And it worked beautifully. And as Fishers has grown, annexation has taken place, leaders have had more vision, the I-69 corridor has grown, Geist Reservoir has evolved to the west, so it incorporates more and more neighborhoods into Fishers proper. All of it has grown into an incredibly diverse and popular place to live.
How about the increase in the influx of retail, of business, of corporate investment, those types of things in the community?
Absolutely, no doubt when you have the entities like IKEA and Topgolf, but even in the Nickel Plate District, which we saw begin to evolve 10 or 15 years ago, now you have places, and you have maybe a little bit more of a heart, of a core, of a center, if you can call it that. So it's a place where people are drawn to, not only to come and be entertained and enjoy their leisure time, but in many cases for people to live close to be able to walk to as well.
Talk generally about pricing and housing options and those types of things and how they have evolved as Fishers has grown.
Fishers really started out at the corner of 116th and Allisonville, unofficially, of course, but I think that's where we saw a lot of the early development begin, both in terms of housing, in some of the commercial entities and things of that nature, and it has spread in a lot of different directions.
All right, let's talk about what you can buy, what folks can buy
Sure.
In Fishers for the price. And we start out in that maybe $175 $175,000 to $250,000 range.
You know, for the history of Fishers, I'm not sure there's a more iconic neighborhood than Sunblest Farms. I mean, most of us just know it as Sunblest, but that was one of the first neighborhoods, and not only because of its affordability, but because of its size. It was a new home development, obviously, when it was first originated. Families flocked there, and they still do today. It's so convenient to get so many different places, and yet as you live in the neighborhood, you're back off the main arteries of traffic. You have convenience of life, but you don't have to put up with a lot of really intense urban living right next to you.
All right, we bump up to Avalon of Fishers, right?
Yeah, a neighborhood out east of I-69, one that's grown in the last 10 to 12 years, 600-700 houses at last count in Avalon. It's a little different price point. They might run $275 to $350 and a little bit beyond in either direction in Avalon of Fishers, but it was a different type of Sunblest. It was kind of a next generation Sunblest built some 20 to 25 years after the fact that just exploded and filled out very quickly as well.
I think we move on to Anderson Hall.
Anderson Hall is also a neighborhood out there east of 69, north of that 126th Street area, and Anderson Hall has newer homes even yet. It's a neighborhood that has continued to evolve in kind of Fishers' model, if you will. They've given people more choices. The homes are a little bit more expensive, but if you came to Fishers and lived in Sunblest Farms, Anderson Hall might be a great place for you to find your next home.
And then we wrap up on the upper end with Cambridge.
Yeah, a lot of people think of Cambridge as being an East Geist or a neighborhood, but it really, I think, is identified heavily with Fishers. But that's one of those neighborhoods that was really, really big in terms of the number of houses that are there. It was kind of a Geist Reservoir location for a lot of people. Not all the houses, obviously, are on the water, but it was very iconic in its recognition by a lot of people across Fishers and across the entire region.
Greg Cooper, thank you very much, as always, for some great perspective.
Great to be here.
All right. Well, the Nickel Plate District is the civic, historic, and cultural epicenter of Fishers. It's where you can catch live entertainment, great music, satisfy your taste for great food as well, at a variety of restaurants. It's also where you'll find a trail near the Nickel Plate rail line that honors the heritage of the area. The district is also the home of Fishers local government. Well, certainly technology is everywhere around Fishers. It continues to impact virtually every aspect of all of our lives. And it also drives change. Data, content, and information on the web is doubling every 7 to 11 months. Current students will change careers, not jobs or promotions, but reinvent what they do 7 to 13 times in their lifetime. With technology, it's no longer what you know, but what can you do with what you know, and which is disrupting the traditional educational system and the environment as well. And I'm pleased to be joined by two tech educators at the forefront of entrepreneurship and innovation in Fishers. Julie Alano is Computer Science Department Chairperson at Haviland Southeastern High School, and Steve Lozier is the Assistant Principal at Fishers High School. And welcome to you both.
Welcome.
Not all school systems and schools are embracing technology and innovation and entrepreneurship. Why is it happening here, and why do you think it's important?
It's important because of what you just said about that people are going to have to change jobs, not careers, but jobs. They're going to switch and going to have to learn new things quickly. And so it's important that we train our students to be able to change and learn on the fly and not just memorize something that they can Google. And I think a lot of schools are taking up on the, the change. It's just some educators are a little afraid of change.
I was going to ask you, has there been some resistance, and why is that?
It's tough. I mean, there's some teachers who, well, I've always done that way and it works. We're still a high-performing school, so why should I change what I'm doing if our school still has high test scores and all of that? But I think it's a matter of making sure that our students are prepared for the jobs, and I think industry is telling us that there's some areas where our students need to work on.
Steve, talk about, in your view, the impact that this focus on innovation and entrepreneurship is having with students in the district, students at Fishers.
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, we want to be reflective of the Fishers community. And so we're being responsive, and that pace of change is really rapid, as Julie talked about. And so our classrooms and our curriculum need to be just as rapid with that. And what's awesome is that we can start to connect those things to community problems, challenges, and build curriculum and classroom experiences around that.
Working with community and industry to give those students those experiences that you can't get in the classroom, so that they're working with, people working in the industry so they can get that experience, as well as not just, the traditional go through material and then test and quiz, so that they're project-based learning and authentic learning experiences that we're giving students, where they really have to apply what they've learned and what they know.
And I got to assume the students probably like that hands-on experience too, even better than the kind of the traditional classroom.
They do. It is a little change for some of them, though. That we kind of call it the play school, and that we're not really doing the play school anymore. And some of them, it's a little shift in for them too. So I think as younger students come along, it'll be even more exciting what we can do, and that they've already had this experience as they come along through our lower grades.
I think, Steve, another great example, the next launch a business plan competition. Second year this year. Talk about that, because I think that's reflective of some of this change and this focus on entrepreneurship in the schools.
So we're in the second year here partnering with Culver Academies, who has kind of put this on. But right here at the IoT Lab, we'll host a business idea competition among 9 high schools. And the top prize is $25,000, and then it tiers down from there. The big goal being that kids take that money and go right on to college, or to really implement their idea.
As you look going at the next 5 years, 10 years plus, the impact of this focus, what do you think it'll be?
I think it's really where you would see students leave our system, and graduate, go on to pursue their goals, whether that's a college or a career step, but ultimately planting their roots right back here in Fishers, both as a citizen, to raise a family, which I'm sure has been touted on the show up until this point, but as well to see the tech ecosystem as really being the place they need to be in this nation to make things happen.
Yeah, and making sure that we try to keep those students here, and by getting them into the community already in high school, then they can see what opportunities they have even before they go to college, so that we can keep them in this community and keep them in Indiana.
Very good. Steve Lozier, the assistant principal at Fishers High School. Also Julie Alano, the department chair, computer science at Hamilton Southeastern. You were the tech educator of the year, right? For Tech Point. So congratulations.
Thanks.
And thank you both for being here. All right. Well, stick around as we dive into a special Insiders panel with a live studio audience. We'll take a look at how Fishers has evolved over the past few decades. There's been a lot of change and where it's headed. We'll also take a few questions from the audience. Stay with us. Well, in 2014, Navient spun off from student loan giant Sallie Mae and started trading on the NASDAQ exchange. The company opened its doors more than a quarter century ago, and today the loan servicing company is one of the largest employers in Fishers with some 1,700 employees. Well, welcome back to this special edition of Inside Indiana Business, powered by Pacers Sports and Entertainment, and coming to you from the Indiana Internet of Things Lab in Fishers. It's time now for a special edition of the Insiders. From the early days as a sleepy little town to the rapid growth and vision to create a vibrant entrepreneurial city, let's take a look now at the pulse of Fishers with a great panel of insiders. Also, we'll take some questions from our studio audience that has been assembled here at the IoT Lab in Fishers. And I'm pleased to be joined on this first section of the Insiders by Clear Objects CEO John McDonald. Also, IUPUI Professor of Practice and Human Computer Interaction, Lou Lindsay. And First Internet Bank Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Nicole Lorch. And welcome one and all to the Insiders.
Thanks.
John, you're a tech guru, but you're also kind of a historian. You've written a couple of books about the history of Fishers. So to tee up our conversation, talk about your view of the evolution of Fishers. That's been a pretty quick evolution over these last 20, 30 years.
Well, we're approaching almost 100,000 people that live here, but as late as 1990, there were still less than 10,000. So the growth has been tremendous. Even as late as 1963, there was only about 350 people that lived in Fishers. So if you plotted that on a graph, it's just explosive in the number of people that have moved in here. That brings with it all the good and the bad. And some of the good we're sitting in here right now today, which is the first ever Civic Internet of Things Lab. And it just shows you what a city with a vision and a mission and a purpose can do when it puts its mind to being innovative and pretty awesome.
Why is it happening here?
I think that fundamentally what's occurring is you've got this magical intersection of great ideas, great talent, and ever-growing amount of venture capital to apply on those things, which are the magic ingredients that can create any innovative company. Those are all right here at arm's length in Fishers, and more importantly, you've got a general sense of enthusiasm enthusiasm around the entire idea of being innovative.
Nicole, First Internet Bank moved here about 5 years ago.
Yes.
And certainly First Internet Bank is one of the great success stories, tech success stories in Indiana. Why the move to Fishers? Why did this environment here fit with the culture there?
Well, Gary, our growth mirrors Fishers' growth. We talk about it like a hockey stick, and being the 18-year overnight success story. It took us 15 years, starting in 1999, to get to be $1 billion in assets. Then it took us 2 years to get that second billion. So the first really is the hardest. And then it's, about on the 1 year to get to the third billion. So like Fishers, slow, steady growth and then a real hockey stick up. But we do love the innovation, the spirit of Fishers. And frankly, being in one place, having all of our Indiana employees under one roof was really important to us in terms of getting our employees on the same page and moving forward in a single direction. But also the environment that it provides. It's accessible to our employees. We have a good number of employees who live right here in Fishers, taking advantage of its amenities. And for those who don't live in Fishers, it's easy to get to.
Why, from a major academic institution standpoint, did you decide to really connect with this IoT lab and, by extension, Fishers?
Well, first of all, this is a great center for innovation and entrepreneurship. And what better platform for us to build innovation in the education system and the curriculum design. And it can be our students coming up here working with, say, companies like John's on a partnership in terms of an internship, externship, student projects, as well as us bringing some of our lecturers up to the campus here and talking about things like data analytics, data science, what's going on in data visualization, and share that knowledge with the partners here in the lab.
You come from a private sector background. As you look at what's happening here in Fishers, the creation of the live, work, play environment, small scale-up companies, corporate players coming and investing here, your reaction to kind of what's taking place?
This is the future, right? It is public companies, it is the government, it is academia working together to really grow an innovation infrastructure.
From a First Internet Bank standpoint, what does being in Fishers do for your ability to attract and for that matter to keep people?
Well, it's so important. This is a knowledge economy, and we have to be able to find not just experienced employees, but those who have a vision for the future, who maybe have been in banking before and haven't liked some of the stifled ways that they've been held to. And so being able to be part of a vibrant community with things to do before and after work and really keep people engaged in the community has been very helpful to us as we've grown.
Very good. We do have a question from the audience, sir. If you could please tell us your name and your question.
My name is Parvez Kokan. I'm a founder of an AR/VR startup right here at the IoT Lab. And like John alluded to, there are 3 things that needed for a successful startup ecosystem. First is ideas, second is talent, and third is capital. And Indiana State has announced the Next Level Fund. How do you guys foresee the Next Level Fund helping the IoT Lab at the grassroots level?
That is such an important part of this. The entire purpose of that Next Level Fund from its inception was to help create a venture capital industry in Indiana. If you don't have venture capital, you don't have any venture businesses. And we've been taught all the way through school that it's small businesses that are the backbone of the American economy. But in truth, according to the Kaufman Institute, it's actually new businesses. Without new businesses, you get no new net job growth. So it's just simply important. It's really critical to our future that we have these startup companies helping traditional businesses that create things to wrap data products around those things to transform them for the new economy. It couldn't be any more important to our future.
Have time for one more quick question from the audience, sir.
Thank you. I'm Rich Tensmeyer. I'm the president of Business and Professional Exchange here in Fisher and also serving the north side of Indianapolis. We work with many people, professionals, that are looking to work perhaps in the IoT field. What can we learn from the businesses about what they might be expecting from future employees by way of skills, background, certifications, ideas, or attitude that would help prepare for the IoT world?
When you think about education, there's the traditional pathway, right? High school, then undergraduate degree, then get your graduate degree. Today, all of that is open now, right? We talk about certificates as opposed to a full, 2-year, say, graduate diploma. We're talking about coursework that is very focused on a specific need. So there's any number of venues that we can train the workforce to really be ready to step into this IoT world. And that's one of the reasons that we elected to join the IoT Lab, was to bring that kind of knowledge and that kind of training here.
that puts a wrap on our first Insider segment. Thank you all for being here. Lou Lindsay, Nicole Lorch, also John McDonald. Thanks very much. And coming up, a new crop of insiders will take over, join us to talk about the Fishers brand and what the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the city might be. Stay with us. Well, Conner Prairie is one of the most visited outdoor museums in the country. The Living History Museum uses the past to shine a light on the future. It is Indiana's first Smithsonian affiliate and has a long history of innovation that spans the fields of science, history, art, and nature. Well, welcome back to this special edition of Inside Indiana Business, a Fishers Town Hall coming to you from the Indiana Internet of Things Lab in Fishers. Our in-depth discussion on Fishers continues with a new panel of insiders. Pleased to be joined now by Amplify co-founder Adam Weber, also One Zone Commerce President Mo Merhoff, and former Fishers Town Council President Walter Kelly. And welcome one and all to this edition of the Insiders and to our special Town Hall edition. Walt, you and I go way back to my Channel 6 days, which was a long time ago, but I remember Fishers as a very small bedroom community. You took a leadership role as Town Council President. Talk about those early days and kind of getting to where we are today.
Well, the early days, we had like 1,000 people. And so we were trying to just make sure we had some fields. We were playing on fields, ball fields that we didn't own. There was no place to eat close by other than Butler's Restaurant, which was the only restaurant. We wanted a gas station to go in. And so I got involved because of a community matter, and they asked somebody to get on the council, and so I was appointed. And after that, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I felt like I could actually use some of my professional experience to see if I could use Fishers as an opportunity to grow it. And over the years, we were blessed by having very good developers, very good businesses, but I would say that in my 21 years, I was more focused on building the infrastructure, if you will, the start of a community and those kinds of things, and had no idea of what these kind of things are today.
Would become, yeah. Adam, talking about Amplify, you're co-founder of Amplify, Blue Bridge Digital, as well, two successful tech companies based right here in Fishers.
Yeah, and it's, I think even if, as you just look back at the last 6 years when we started, how different Fishers is from even when we began. So we started in the library at the original launch Fishers, and at the time, obviously we recruit a lot of people right out of college, and there wasn't a lot of things there. And then, I mean, you just look at today, just 6 years later, all the opportunities, places to walk, and it's really changed the dynamic of the city, and it's been an exciting place, obviously, to start a business.
So your ability to keep people, but also attract people here has changed just in the 6 years you've been in business.
Yeah, I really think it's remarkable, actually. Like, compared to, if you just think of 6 years, whereas a couple restaurants to walk to, whereas now there's multiple, or even things like corporate outings like at Topgolf or the Escape Room. Things like that really do change how people think about where they work and whether or not this is just a place where they go to work and leave, or if this is a place they stay and as well.
Mo, One Zone Commerce is, well, I guess I'll call a regional chamber of commerce, bridging both Fishers and Carmel. You look at Hamilton County, Fishers, Carmel, Noblesville, Westfield, you have all these growing cities. Talk about the need for, or how you view collaboration among communities and how it's going.
I think it's absolutely essential for not only all of our individual communities to succeed, but if we're going to move Indiana forward, then the way we will do that is to together make Central Indiana the place everybody wants to be. If you look at communities with whom we're competing, the Nashvilles, the Columbuses, that's the way they're going about regional thinking and the amenities and building the types of cities and places where people don't just want to work, but want to live. And that has been a sea change. Go to communities across the Midwest, and you'll find these old corporate campuses where everybody had a high-rise building, and that was where they wanted to be, and they drove to lunch. Now there are at least two generations, my own and yours, looking for where I can walk, where I can bike, where I can be engaged with interesting people during my business day.
Where do you see the future direction of the community, and what challenges are out there? What do you think is a big challenge that could be a hurdle for continued growth?
Well, I think she said it best when she said the generational changes, things that were important, and the way I viewed it in my generation have changed. Right now you have congestion, if you will, at rush hour, but the rest of the time you really don't have any congestion, and you probably won't have congestion in the future because I think there's going to be more people working from home and doing things, telecommute and teleport and all those kinds of things. It's just a different environment. So, yes.
We do have a question from the audience.
Hi, this is Michelle Miller. I'm the CEO of M3 Ultimate Solutions, and my question is whether or not we can get people outside their homes when they're working from home to actually go visit Conner Prairie or other facilities within Fishers to make sure that learning happens while outside the home.
Well, I think in some ways, you know, from a team building perspective, we look at different ways that we can incorporate what's around us that's nearby that doesn't take a half day to get people out and experience something different. And also, anytime you do something that's against the norm, it creates better relationships on those teams, and something that we care a lot about.
I also think that the world has changed a little bit. I think we all thought we might be working from home. And the more studies that you read and the more places like this that happen that are immediately successful, people like to be with people. And sometimes if you look at the new construction of office buildings with various locations for teams to congregate, that's where good ideas happen. So it turns out people kind of like to be around other people to help fuel their ideas and help drive them to the next good one.
Mo, from your standpoint, as you look at challenges, especially when it comes to, you know, multiple growing cities in Hamilton County, but you look at Fishers and what might happen here, what's the challenges? What could be a hurdle out there facing potential continued success and growth?
I think managing change is always challenging. And when you have been a rapidly growing community with vision, I mean, you can mark when communities across the Midwest, particularly in Indiana, decided to take control of their futures. And they decided to make decisions about what they want built and where they want it built. So the ongoing challenge is to ensure that you can keep up with that popularity and that you can keep ahead of the infrastructure needs so that if you build it, they can get there.
Yeah. I only have about 20 seconds, Walt, but is it mass transit? As you look at this continued growth, you mentioned infrastructure being so important. Is it transit? What's the big issue going forward, do you think?
I think the hardest thing I always found to fund and to accomplish is the movement of people, movement of cars, whether it's mass transit, whether it's 12 lanes of highways, whether it's tunnels and above. You have to work together because we drive on others' roads, they drive on our roads. And so I think getting people from point A to point B is the biggest challenge, I think the hardest thing. But I do want to say, if I can in the last few seconds, I was exceptionally pleased that whether or not this Amazon headquarters comes here or not, I saw Indianapolis and Mayor Fadness working together, and that was some of the things we tried to do as well. You have to think regionally on issues, so wherever it ends up.
That's a great way to end it, and great point. Walt Kelly, Adam Weber, and also Mo Meyerhoff, thanks very much. And we'll be right back right after this. Stay with us. And before we wrap up this special edition of our show, we want to give a special thank you to the Indiana IoT Lab, Launch Fishers, and also the City of Fishers for sharing their space, their information, and lots of great resources with us as well. And as always, a big thank you to our friends and colleagues at WFYI for another first-class production, and to our presenting sponsor of our remote town hall broadcast in 2018, Pacers Sports and Entertainment. Thank you for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.